Keanu Reeves has always been a man of few words when it comes to discussing The Matrix, the genre-defining 1999 film that became a global cultural phenomenon. For over 2 decades, Reeves remained largely silent on the deeper meanings of the movie, the secrets buried beneath the special effects, and the philosophical layers embedded within its script. But now, at 60, the actor has finally broken that silence. In a series of quiet, emotional admissions, Keanu has revealed a truth about The Matrix that was never supposed to come out. A truth that might just change how we see the film forever. To understand what Reeves recently said and why it matters, we have to return to the origins of The Matrix. Not just the plot or the production, but Keanu's mindset when the script first arrived in his hands. In the late 90s, he was known for roles in Speed, Point Break, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but he was far from a typical Hollywood star. He gravitated toward indie projects and Shakespearean performances, turning down flashy roles in favor of creative and often cerebral material. Fame was never his mission. Introspection was. So when the Wachowskis pitched The Matrix to him, it wasn't an immediate yes. The screenplay was dense with philosophical ideas about simulated realities, illusions, and control, a far cry from a typical action blockbuster. Most major actors passed. Will Smith turned it down for Wild Wild West. Nicolas Cage declined because of family commitments. The studio was hesitant, unsure of the film's complex ideas, and even more unsure about casting Keanu as the lead. But something about the story spoke to him. Something he couldn't quite articulate, but felt deeply. He accepted the role, even without fully understanding it, because, as he would later say, "I knew it mattered." What followed was grueling preparation. Keanu endured months of martial arts training, wire work, and philosophical discussions. When the production hit financial snags, he gave up part of his salary to ensure the crew remained employed. A quiet act of generosity that defined his character both on and off screen. He wasn't playing Neo as a typical action hero. There was hesitation in his portrayal, a vulnerability that mirrored his own inner journey. Neo didn't shout. He observed. He questioned. He evolved. And through that arc, Keanu infused the role with his own curiosity and emotional depth. Behind the camera, Keanu asked tough questions. What is freedom? How do we know we're not being controlled? If we live in a system designed to blind us, how can we ever truly wake up? These weren't lines in a script to him. They were existential concerns, mirrored in the very DNA of the movie. While most saw The Matrix as a sleek, tech-noir action film, Keanu treated it like a reflective lens, one through which we might see ourselves more clearly. The Wachowskis had based the concept on complex philosophical thought, especially from Jean Baudrillard's work Simulacra and Simulation, which argued that modern life is shaped more by simulations than reality. The Matrix, then, wasn't just a computer program. It was a metaphor for modern society, a prison without bars, one that we unknowingly live inside every day. But as the Wachowskis tried to push these ideas into the foreground, the studio resisted. They wanted a cool blockbuster, not a deep existential treatise, so the movie was streamlined. Subplots were trimmed, radical ideas softened, and the deeper message about freedom, illusion, and control was buried just beneath the surface. Still, that message resonated. The red pill became a symbol, not just of rebellion, but of awakening. It wasn't about escaping machines. It was about breaking free from systems of comfort and blind obedience. Audiences felt it, even if they couldn't name it. They recognized Neo's uncertainty. They related to his desire to understand a world that didn't quite make sense. Keanu's performance carried an emotional weight, in part because he was channeling real pain. Few knew at the time, but in 1999, the same year the film premiered, Reeves experienced profound personal tragedy. He and his partner, Jennifer Syme, lost their daughter, who was stillborn at 8 months. Less than 2 years later, Jennifer died in a car crash. Reeves, heartbroken and grieving, kept working. He didn't use the media to process his grief. He internalized it, and somehow, that grief seeped into every frame of The Matrix. Neo's confusion, his sorrow, his quiet resilience, those emotions weren't fabricated. They were real. Crew members on set noticed how quiet and focused Keanu was. He wasn't withdrawn out of arrogance. He was living through a storm of loss. And yet, he kept showing up, giving everything to a film that many would remember for its action, but which Keanu always saw as something much deeper. His grief became part of the film's soul. As the franchise exploded in popularity, sequels followed. Expectations were sky high. Fans wanted answers, but what they got was more action, more spectacle, and fewer questions. The studio's influence was stronger by then. The radical philosophical ideas the Wachowskis originally envisioned, like the notion that even the real world was another layer of the Matrix, were largely cut. Some of those scenes were shot, but never made it to the final version. Instead, the sequels emphasized action over ambiguity. The rich spiritual metaphors, the cycles of reincarnation, and the uncomfortable mirror the first film held up to society were dulled down for mass consumption. Keanu never publicly criticized this direction. He remained respectful and loyal. But over time, fans noticed that his interviews became more vague. He seemed less enthusiastic when discussing the sequels. He talked less about themes and more about surface-level production. Something had changed. Years passed. Then came The Matrix Resurrections, announced in 2019. The world was different. Keanu was older. Lana Wachowski returned to write and direct, this time without her sister, motivated by the grief of losing both parents and a close friend. She didn't resurrect Neo and Trinity for money. She did it to cope with loss, and that struck a deep chord with Keanu. This fourth film wasn't a traditional sequel. It wasn't even really about The Matrix anymore. It was about storytelling itself, about grief, love, memory, and illusion. Neo wasn't a savior. He was a man lost in a system of constant distraction and artificial comfort, a metaphor that felt far more relevant in the age of social media than it had in 1999. Reeves returned not to revive his fame, but to help tell a story that felt emotionally unfinished, and fans noticed. During interviews, he spoke less about special effects and more about connection, about finding meaning in repetition, and about the comfort of revisiting something that had always lingered in his heart. Then came the turning point. During a promotional interview with Stephen Colbert marking the 25th anniversary of The Matrix, Keanu said something unexpected. When asked what the movie meant to him now, he grew quiet. "It changed my life," he said, "and I think it changed how people see the world." That pause, that weight in his voice, hinted at something long held back. Not long after, people close to Keanu said he began speaking more openly in private. For the first time, he admitted that the original vision of The Matrix had been censored. "They made me hide this," he reportedly said. Early drafts had a second Matrix, a deeper layer of control disguised as freedom. Neo was never meant to be a clean-cut hero. The real world was never meant to be real. But the studio pushed for clarity, for action, for something audiences could cheer for, not something that would make them question their own reality. They didn't want people thinking like that, Keanu explained. They wanted entertainment, not truth. Those close to him say he wasn't bitter, just tired. Tired of holding on to a truth that was never allowed to come out. He had always believed that The Matrix could be more than a movie. It could be a wake-up call. But instead it became a dream. A beautifully rendered, deeply symbolic dream that rocked people back to sleep. And yet, the truth never completely disappeared. It lingered in the metaphors, the visual cues, the dialogue fans quoted without fully understanding. Neo was always a mirror, not a messiah. His journey wasn't about defeating machines. It was about breaking the illusion. And Keanu, through all his silence and restraint, was always trying to carry that message forward. Now, at 60, he's finally saying it out loud. The Matrix wasn't fiction. It was reflection. The world it described is already here. We scroll through curated realities. We accept convenience in exchange for autonomy. We live in systems we didn't create, believing we're free. But are we? That question, the one Keanu's been waiting 25 years to ask, is the real red pill. And now that he's said it, we have to ask ourselves, if The Matrix was never just a movie, what parts of our own lives have we mistaken for freedom?